Hey folks, hope you're all doing amazingly well. Today I have put together a full tutorial all about iMovie. So if you're new to the subject of video editing, this is the video for you. Believe it or not, Apple originally released iMovie 21 years ago. The year was 1999 and internet was at its infancy. While many full-time video creators eventually graduate to pro apps like DaVinci Resolve, Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro, a lot of people first started their journey using iMovie. Now, most people struggle with the concept of video editing. Especially for beginners, it's hard to know where to start, it's confusing, it takes time to learn, and most people when they hit a roadblock, they just tend to give up their video project. So, I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. The concepts of video editing, it's relatively the same across all video editing apps, just a matter of knowing where all the right buttons, tools, and features are. So I'm going to try to keep it very simple for all the people who are just getting started with iMovie, as well as showing you some really cool tips and tricks inside of iMovie. So before spending hours or even days trying to trial and error your way through learning iMovie by yourself, make sure you watch this full video. Now as we get going, if some of you already know some things, then you can go ahead, look at the time codes down below and skip forward. That's gonna be in the description as well. Alright, without further ado, let's get started. So let's launch iMovie first. The first time you open up iMovie on your Mac, you're going to have this blank screen here. This is your projects menu. If you've never used it, you won't have any projects here, and we're actually going to create one. So multiple ways to create a new project. You can go to the file menu, you can click on new movie, or you can go ahead and hit this big plus button over here in the top left hand side where you have the option to choose between a trailer or a movie. Now the trailer option comes with a lot of predefined templates allowing you to create a sort of pre-designed Hollywood trailer kind of a look. It's a little bit hokey, and that's why I generally don't use it unless I have a very particular ask. So we're just going to go ahead and select the option of movie here. Alright, here you have the iMovie interface. Okay, first thing we need to do is figure out how to import media. There are several ways to do it. You have a nice button right here, or you can use your keyboard, Command plus I. There's also a button right here. You can just go ahead to the file menu, import media. Or last and the obvious one, you can just drag a clip straight into the timeline. Okay, I'm gonna delete that though. Okay, so I'm gonna import media. Let's go ahead and click here. I'll locate my media that's on my desktop. I think it's my iMovie for beginners folder, and I have a whole bunch of clips here. So let's go ahead, grab that all the way to import. All right, now we have a media in our library. But one thing you're going to want to do is you hit this projects button over here to go back to our projects menu. It's going to ask you to name your movie. And now we are going to see that you have this movie here in your project. So anytime you want to open it, it will be here for you. All you have to do is double click. So in the next 5 odd minutes before we get started with the actual editing, I want to show you around the iMovie interface, because a huge part of learning how to edit videos is figuring out where things are, what the buttons do, and how to actually make stuff happen. So the entire screen is divided into 3 different zones: the media library, the preview window, and the timeline. So up here in the very top left, you already know where to go back to your projects and menu. You also have these options here to hide or show your menu or your media files, and this little down arrow that you see here is what you can select if you want to go ahead and import any other media clips to your project. This could be video files, this could be audio files. On the left hand side, you have your project media, you have your libraries. This is where all your audio files, all your video files, or the titles that you will create, everything will reside here. So if you click on this my media here, it's going to show you all the media. So for example, I have some files here that are still images. You can see that the little camera icon on the very top of this yellow outline clip, this shows that it's a still image. I have 4 of those in my timeline. I have not imported any audio here, any background music or anything, so there's not going to be anything there. So moving on down, as mentioned earlier, this huge gray part under here is your timeline, and that's where all of the editing magic is going to take place. We'll get to that in just in a sec. And then over here at the top right is your preview window. So this is where if you select a clip over here, you can see what it is. You can see what's going on. So you're previewing this clip. And then above that you have this menu, which is a very important menu because that's where a lot of the functionalities and features of iMovie reside. If you just hover your mouse over these, you will get an explanation of what each of these things do. So this little magic wand over here, it will automatically improve the video and the audio quality. We're not going to mess with that quite yet. This one here is going to open up our color balance, so we can either decide to let iMovie automatically balance the color, or we can go ahead and change it ourselves. We'll get to that stuff in just a little bit. This little paint palette here is to adjust your saturation, your color temperature, your exposure, and then you also have the cropping tool here. The next one over here is the anti-shake feature to stabilize a shaky clip. And then you have your volumes where you can edit your audio, noise reduction, and equalizers. So again, more audio editing. Here we can edit the speed of the clip, add a filter to the visual of the clip, and then also add an audio effect filter as well. And then this little eye icon here gives you some information about this clip, like the file name, when it was recorded, how long it is, and all those kind of things. Moving on to the bottom of this preview window, we have a heart and an X. So if you have a video clip in your media section that you know you definitely want to include this in your final video, then you can hit this little heart icon here and add it to your favorites. If you decide that there is a clip that you don't want to include, you can click on the X icon and you can go ahead and reject the selected clip. And here in the middle you have the play button, so you can hit play and it'll just simply play the video for you. You can actually see it. You can also hit the space bar to play and pause these clips. And if you want to do it really quickly, all you have to do is just select a clip. And you see, I'm not clicking on anything, I'm just hovering my mouse over and dragging it from the left of the clip to the right of the clip. And I'm doing it as quickly or as slowly as I want to. So this is essentially in iMovie terms called scrubbing through a clip. I'm just doing it quickly to do a real quick preview of finding exactly what I am looking for, or making sure that this is in fact the right clip that I'm trying to preview. And this button over here in the bottom right of the playback window, if I hit that, then my video is going to go full screen and you can preview this clip in full screen. And then all you have to do is hit the escape button on your keyboard to go back. And last but not the least is a very important button that you're going to need in order to complete your project, is this share button in the top right now. So let me make sure that you can actually see all of these menu items. There we go. So from here you have a couple of different options to export your video file, and I'm not going to go too in depth here because we don't have anything to export yet. So the file option over here is the one that I would recommend and suggest that you use rather than the email, YouTube, Facebook or Vimeo option. Alright, so with that, our little preview of the iMovie interface is complete. What we have done so far is that we have imported our media. What we are going to do next is we are going to drag some media into the timeline and get started on the edit. Alright, first we'll grab this clip, and here we are just going to do a simple click and drag with your mouse or your trackpad and drop it into the timeline. Okay, we have a 11.7 second clip here. I think it's slightly longer than what I wanted, so I'm going to go ahead and grab the end here and I'm going to drag it all the way to around 4 or 5 second mark. There we go, and you can do that on either end, so that's simple resizing type editing. Next, let me show you another way to actually get the video into the timeline. So you're gonna click on the video itself and then you can hit the plus sign, but make sure your scrubber or your timeline is exactly where you want that video clip to go. And we'll hit that plus button on my keyboard and it's gonna drop right down there for us. Alright, this clip is 9.1 seconds long. I think again that's slightly longer. So I'm gonna scrub through my mouse or my trackpad just to see what it is in this video. And as you can see, it's just showing the actual tire size, so it doesn't have to be that long. Let me bring this in. So I'm just going to grab a piece here. This time we're going to do a right click, we're going to split the clip right here, and then we're going to delete the other piece. Yeah, this looks good enough for there. Now moving on to the third clip. This time I want to look at it in the timeline. So if you notice, when I'm scrubbing, you can see what's happening in the player there. So That makes a lot easier to not bring the whole clip down in that way. You don't have to edit in the timeline. You can just bring pretty much what you want. And I'm gonna grab these handles here, these yellow handles, and make it a little bit smaller. It's 10 seconds now. Let's do a little bit here and a little bit there. Okay, looks good this time. I'm gonna just drag it down into my timeline, and it's starting to get a little bit long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten it up by using this slider here. That way I can see more clips at a time, and you can make it longer or shorter. It won't affect the length of the video, just to display itself here. Also, I don't like it this small, so I'm going to go to the settings. I'm going to bump up the clip size, so it's a little bit easier for me to see and for you guys to see in this tutorial. And I always like my waveform showing by making sure that this checkbox is checked. Okay, alright, so we have 3 clips here. Let's move on to the next one. This time same, I don't need the whole thing, but I do want the beginning. So that's what I'm going to do, is use the I key on my keyboard and then O key. So I for in and O for out. The beginning I'm pretty happy with, so I'll just leave it this way. It's just a little bit, then I'll hit the I, and then on the way out where I want to stop right there, I'll hit the O, and you'll notice that it's highlighting the area that I marked. So now I'm gonna hit the plus button on my keyboard and it'll drop it down into the timeline. So we are doing pretty good now. Alright, let's move to the next clip. This is 7.6 seconds long, and we don't need that much, so I'll do the same thing this time. I'm going to use my mouse. I'm going to click and drag the little bracket thing here, the little tool, and I think that's more than good enough. Right there, we're going to drag that in and make it slightly smaller so we can add more clips. Next, this one is 8.4 seconds, doesn't need to be that long, so let's do in and an out right there. Drag that in, handlebar. I kind of like this one. I want to mess with that in the timeline, so I'm just gonna add it as it is. So for the rest of these clips, I'm gonna fast forward while I go ahead and drop these into the timeline for you. Okay, and we are back up. Then all my initial editing, let me make this a little bit smaller so you can see what we are working with here. We have all of our clips ready in the timeline, and again, this is just an initial quick edit we are doing here, just to get it to a way I kind of want it to be. And I'll scroll through here slowly just to kind of show you what's happening here. Okay, alright. So the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to add some titles to our project. Here we are going to go to the titles menu here, click on that, and I want to put one at the beginning. I'm going to grab that and drag it to the beginning, and make sure that you wait for a second for this big purple clip to appear. Basically, you want to add it in front of your timeline and not on top of any previous clip. We will eventually get to that also. But yeah, right now I want to add it as a clip in front of my timeline. So I'm going to double click here. I'm going to go through in here and with our mouse and edit this. Let me call it my GT mountain bike. Okay. Now I'm going to highlight this and do a little bit of editing here on the text. So I want to change the font to this one. I want to take off the outline and I'll leave it white. So we are good to go. Let me hit the check mark here to actually keep it. You can reset it at times also by hitting the reset button here as well. Alright, just have a look. It's 4 seconds long, I think slightly longer. So let's change that. Okay, I just got an idea here. How about this, my GT? Yeah, that's look. So let's reduce its duration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click here. I'm going to split it. Now it's around 2 seconds each. So let me delete this 1.9, and now we have a 2.1 second title here. So now let's grab another title. So we're gonna grab a title here, and we'll grab the same centered one. We'll drag it right at the bottom. Let me edit this to the end, and let me put some exclamation marks here. Now let's edit the font. Yeah, and let's take the outline, maybe bump up the size a little bit to maybe 124. Yeah, I think slightly bigger would look good. So let's make it 160. How about that? Yeah, there we go, and we'll go ahead and accept it. So let's go back to the front, and I want to put another title here. And so we have already put one title at the start, we have put one in the end. Let me show you how you can actually drop titles in between as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'll grab one of these and I'll make sure that you keep on holding it till it becomes a clip within my timeline. Now I can go ahead and edit this. Let's call it big tires. Okay, we'll accept that. Okay, so we have titles in front, we have titles in the back, now we have title in the middle as well. So now what we'll do is we'll add some titles onto the screens as well, like lower thirds or subtitles or top corner, something like that. So let's go ahead and grab a title in a different location. So let me grab an upper and we'll put this one right here. So you notice you can drag it pretty much anywhere you want it to. Okay, we'll put it at the beginning. Let me zoom in a little bit so that you can see better, and let me go in here and edit this. I'll highlight that, I'll take that border off, I'll change it to a different font, change the font size, and let's change the color as well. Let's go yellow. Yeah, good enough. So if you notice, the title will carry across clips here the longer you make it, and you can make it as longer or shorter as you want it to be. So let's go ahead and make this shorter and move it. So let's go ahead and make this shorter and we'll move it just a little bit so that you can move it anywhere you need to go, but let's move it halfway so that we can see the clip with and without the title. Here we go. Now this is where I want to point out one limitation of iMovie. That's there, you cannot have stacked titles. Basically, if I wanted to grab another one and put it here, it's not gonna let me. It'll let me put it right next to each other, really close, like right up against each other, but the minute I try to drag it on top, it's gonna try to move it over or divide it. So basically you cannot stack more than one, unfortunately. Alright, so we have taken care of the titles. We have got them in the front, we have got them in the back, we have got them as clips in between, as well as clips themselves. Going pretty good so far. Next, let's go ahead and add some transitions here. So after a title and the first clip, there is an abrupt cut there, and what I want to do is I want to add a little transition here. So let's go ahead and grab a transition here, and I'll probably just do a generic cross dissolve. We'll drag that down here so it's set to 1 second. Let's go ahead and have a look. Now if you want to change its duration, all you need to do is double click and let me resize it to 0.5 seconds. I think, yeah, let's have a quick look. Yeah, that's much better. And just to take note, transitions can only be as long as the two clips. So we only have 1.3 seconds here to work with, and on this side 3.5 seconds. So you can't make this thing like 5 seconds. iMovie is gonna tell you no. So just to let you know that we'll keep it as it is. And you can also add transition at the beginning. So sometimes I'll use a cross zoom here to give it a little bit of effect. There we go. Now let me go ahead and finish adding transitions through this whole project. I'll keep it very simple and I'll just add cross dissolve to everything here. So let me fast forward this. Here it's the end of the video and then straight to title. But what I want to do is I want to add a fade to black. So let's go back to the transitions. We'll do a fade to black. Let's grab this one, drop it right in between these two. There we go. And lastly, at the end, I'm gonna leave it as it is because our title is already black, so it just fades out automatically. So we are good to go there. Next, let's go back to our media, and this time I want to add a little picture in picture on top of this clip here. So I'm gonna take this GT logo. It's a picture I grabbed from their website. So I'm gonna drag and hold it and put it right on top. Okay. I'm going to make it slightly smaller and let's expand it out on the timeline here so that we can see better, and I'll zoom in for you. Okay, so now we have a layer on top. So anytime there's a layer on top, it's gonna be covering it and then it switches it back. So basically this is what we kind of call the B roll. So what you do is you are on a A roll here, then a B roll, and then back to a A roll. But we want to make this picture in picture, so we are going to double click here. We're gonna go to this first icon, which is the video overlay settings. On that, go down to picture in picture, and now iMovie has made it another layer that we can move around and we can resize and we can do a little bit of customization too. So let's put this down here at the bottom. We're gonna add a border to it. We're gonna make it white, and we'll even drop a shadow on it. Why not? So let's have a quick look, and you can control the fade in and fade out by grabbing these controllers here and dragging it left or right. So let's do that. Another thing that you can do with this highlighted, by double clicking, you can go to the transition area up here and change it from dissolve to zoom to swap. So let's go ahead and go to zoom. Okay, so you see it zooms in from the side, but let's change the position of this thing and see what happens with our zoom. So let's go ahead and try that. You can also do a swap, and it's more of a big to small, small to big type of transition. Can look pretty good at times, but for this tutorial, let's go ahead and put it back to picture in picture. We are just gonna do a zoom. So let me make sure it's a little bit smaller so it's not covering the bike. And I do have a drop shadow. I have a white small border. You can make it bigger, you can change the color if you would like, but let's keep it like that and check the box for accepting it, and there it is. Okay, so that's how you do picture in picture. It can be done both with video or with an image, it doesn't matter. Alright, so next let me show you some zooming and cropping functionalities. So we're gonna select a clip here. We're gonna go to this cropping tool here, and you can do several things. You can do crop to fill, you can do a Ken Burns effect. But what I want to do is I want to get to a certain point in this video. So I'm gonna split this clip right there, and now it's become two clips. So for the second clip, I want to zoom in. So we're gonna go back to our cropping tool. Right now it's crop to fill. What we want to do is we want to just zoom it in a little bit. So let's go ahead and do that. So now let's have a quick look. So that's regular, 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 and then zoomed in a little bit. Okay, I might even want to add a quick transition here. So let's do this. Cross zoom here, make that 0.5, make it as quick as we can. Okay. Now you can use your imagination here. If you like it, you can keep it, otherwise delete it and just have it like a jump cut. Okay, so that's how you do a zoom. Now let's look at the Ken Burns effect. So I'll show you that now. So let me go ahead and open this clip up here by double clicking on it, going to the cropping tool, hitting Ken Burns, and what Ken Burns will let me do is it will let me decide a start point and an end point. So the start point, I'm gonna make it full screen, and the end point, I'm gonna focus on this triple triangle design part. So once you got it where you want it to go, you can hit the check mark here to accept it. You will notice that it starts there and then it goes in, and this is what we call the Ken Burns effect. If you want to undo it, you can go back to your cropping tool and you can just hit fill option, but let's leave it as it is because in my opinion it looks great. The next piece of functionality I want to demonstrate is how to do a freeze frame. So in this situation, what you're gonna do is go through your clip here, and there's something you kind of want to stop and draw the viewer's attention to. It's called a freeze frame. So what you're gonna do is find where you want to go. You're gonna right click and then you're gonna go down and select add freeze frame. What iMovie is gonna do is it's gonna put a little section here where it stops the video, so you have a normal speed and then it stops and then it comes back. Once you do that, you can actually control the length of the freeze frame here. So let's look at it now. There it froze and now it's back. So depending on how long you want it, that little freeze section to be, you can actually control that by these little sliders here. So let's make our freeze a little bit shorter. You can actually customize exactly where it freezes and for how long here. So we go, okay, maybe that's a little bit too short. Let's expand that out. That's probably good enough. There you go, and that's how you do a freeze frame. Okay, now let's have a look at backgrounds. I'll show you how I actually use them. The first thing I'm going to do is kind of use the underwater one. It has a little bit of motion in it. So we drag this down here. We'll make it a little bit longer. Let me go ahead and shorten this up. You can see better. Okay, now we have a background that has a little bit of underwater kind of light shadow movement. So what I like to do is I like to grab a piece of video, put it on top. Of course, I don't have anything it really matches it with, but let's just grab whatever we have and put it on top. So just to show you the functionality, I'm gonna double click, I'm gonna go to the overlay tool and we're gonna go to picture in picture, and I'm gonna actually put this right smack in the middle there. we go. All right, so let's put a little border on it, maybe even a thicker border. I'm gonna move it around. All right, now I'm gonna see how it looks. Let's go ahead and take a look. Now, one important thing I wanted to mention here is the fact that this clip still has some audio in it, and I can either turn it down by going up and down here. Also, if I want to detach the audio, I can right click on it and detach audio, and it appears down here, and I can either move this or just delete it altogether, which I'm going to do right now. So currently this video has a fade in. I'm going to get rid of that, so I'm actually going to have it start exactly when that background starts. Yes, so this clip is out of place, but you get the general idea on how you can use backgrounds with videos, with pictures, with text, and make something look really unique and interesting. Alright, you're now at the end of our video edit and you want to share it with the world and to your family, or just put it on your drive. So we're going to go ahead and do that. First, you're going to go to the top right corner. You're going to click on the share icon here. Now the only sharing functionality that I use personally is file right here. What this does is it allows me to export my movie after it's rendered to my desktop or any location that I want it to. After that, I'll myself do the uploading to YouTube, Instagram, send it to my friends, put it on Facebook, whatever I like to have. But I like to have complete control. So let's go ahead and get to this. First thing you're going to do is actually name it. I'm going to call this my GT. You can put in a little description here, bike video. You can put some tags here. Next, you're going to select the format. Usually it's going to be video and audio, but there is the option to actually export only audio. So if there's a video file and you just wanted to get the audio out of it, you can do that as well. But right now in this tutorial, let's go ahead and do video and audio. Resolution, I usually export it to the max, but there might be some situations where you want a lower resolution. But for me and this video here, we are going to go with 1080p 60 frames per second. I think the resolution is good. Quality, I always do high. If you go any higher, what you see is this really big file size, but honestly high has always been good enough for me. For compressor, I always use better quality. Then you're gonna hit next. Next, you're gonna choose where you want to put it. Let's put it on our desktop. We'll hit save, and if you look at the right corner, you see this pie chart moving, which tells you the progress of the video rendering. And we are done. Okay, well, that's it for the tutorial. I want to thank everybody for watching. If you have any questions, just go ahead and put those in the comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon, because I am always pushing new tutorials every single week. Thank you for watching, everyone. I hope this video inspired you to go out there and start creating content. Peace out.